The coffee at Rosie's diner tastes like burnt rubber at 7:47 a.m., but Jake Malone drinks it anyway. 30 years of early mornings and bad coffee. He sits in the corner booth, always the corner. Back to the wall. Eyes on the door where the vinyl is cracked and patched with duct tape. The Iron Brotherhood president patch on his leather vest catches the fluorescent light. Reaper, they call him. He earned that name in places he doesn't talk about anymore. The bell above the door chimes. A little girl walks in alone. Maybe 8 years old, brown hair tangled, wearing a pink jacket, 2 sizes too small. She slides into the booth by the window and stares at the menu like she's reading scripture. Jake watches her over the rim of his mug. Something's wrong. He spent 43 years on this earth learning to spot wrong, and this girl radiates it like heat off asphalt in August. Rosie waddles over with the coffee pot, her orthopedic shoes squeaking on the linoleum. "What can I get you, sweetie?" The girl flinches. Full body recoil when Rosie reaches past her to refill the water glass. Jake's hand tightens on his mug. That's not surprise. That's trained fear. Rosie doesn't notice. She's already moving to the next table, calling out orders to Pete in the kitchen. Jake shifts in his seat, angles his body for a better view. The girl's arms rest on the table. Purple bruises circle her wrists like bracelets. More bruises climb her forearms, some fresh and dark, others fading to yellow-green. Fingerprint bruises. Adult-sized. His jaw clenches so hard his molars ache. The bell chimes again. A man fills the doorway. 6'3", 240, wearing khakis and a polo shirt like he's heading to a country club. Clean cut. Respectable. The kind of man people trust at PTA meetings. Derek Harris. Jake knows him by reputation, moved to town 3 years back. Married Maggie Harris after a whirlwind romance. Became a stepfather to her daughter. Maggie died 2 years ago. Cancer. Now it's just Derek and the girl. Emma. Derek's voice cuts through the diner chatter. Let's go. Emma stands so fast, her water glass wobbles. She doesn't look at him. Doesn't say goodbye to Rosie. Just moves toward the door like a dog who knows the leash means pain. Derek's hand clamps around her wrist. She makes a small sound, not quite a whimper, more like air leaving a punctured tire. He yanks her through the door. Jake watches Derek's fingers dig into the exact spot where the bruises are darkest. The girl's face stays blank. She's learned not to cry in public. Jake knows that lesson. His little brother Danny taught him that lesson, back when their old man still had hands that worked like hammers. The door swings shut. Through the window, Jake watches Derek shove Emma into a silver BMW. Watches him lean down and say something that makes her shoulders hunch up to her ears. The car pulls away. Jake sits in the booth for 3 more minutes. His coffee goes cold. His breakfast eggs and hash browns congeals on the plate. Rosie stops by with a concerned look, but he waves her off. He's counting the bruises in his memory, mapping them. 7 on the left arm, 5 on the right. The ones on her wrists form perfect circles, thumb and forefinger marks. There's a pattern here, a history written in purple and yellow on a little girl's skin. Jake pulls out his phone and takes a note. Tuesday, November 4th, 7:47 a.m. Emma Harris. Multiple contusions. Flinching response. Handler exhibited controlling behavior and physical aggression. He stares at the words. This is how it starts. This is how Danny started with bruises people pretended not to see. Before I continue the story, please subscribe. I need to reach 1,000 subscribers so I can keep bringing you stories like this every day. It's just 1 click for you, but it means a lot to me. Thank you. Thursday morning. Emma's back at Rosie's. Different booth. Same dead eyes. Jake watches her order. Oatmeal she doesn't eat. The bruises on her wrists have faded to greenish yellow, but there's a new one on her left forearm. Fresh, dark, purple, spreading into the shape of 4 fingers and a thumb. She wears long sleeves pulled down to her knuckles despite the diner's stuffy heat. Saturday afternoon, Jake sees her at Miller's Market on 5th Street. She's trailing behind Derek, carrying grocery bags that look too heavy for her thin arms. When a can of soup falls and rolls across the parking lot, Derek's face goes red. He doesn't yell, doesn't have to, just looks at her, and Emma freezes like a rabbit spotting a hawk. Jake files it away. Monday, 3:47 p.m. Emma walks past the MC clubhouse on her way home from school, alone. Her backpack drags on the sidewalk. Too full, or she's too tired to carry it properly. The bruises have multiplied. Jake counts 9 visible marks on her arms and 1 on her collarbone that peeks above her collar. She sees him standing by his Harley and her eyes go wide. Not afraid of him, afraid he'll say something, afraid someone will notice. She hurries past, practically running. That's when Jake starts asking questions. He begins at the Copper Kettle Bar where the town talks. Sheila, the bartender who's known everyone's business for 30 years, leans across the counter when Jake orders a beer he won't drink. "That Harris girl?" Sheila's voice drops. "School nurse called CPS twice this year. Maybe 3 times. They came out, did their little interviews, filed their little reports. Derek's good at talking his way out of things. Says she's clumsy, falls a lot, plays rough at school. And they believe that?" Jake's hand tightens around the bottle. "They want to believe it. Easier that way." Sheila wipes down the bar with practiced efficiency. Emma's mama, Maggie, she was a sweet thing. Died of breast cancer 2 years back. Happened fast diagnosis to funeral in 8 months. Derek had her in the ground and a new woman in the house within 6 months. Cheryl something. Works nights at the plastics factory over in Millbrook. 3rd shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Jake does the math. Emma's alone with Derek every night from bedtime until dawn. The school nurse is a harder conversation. Margaret Chen meets Jake in the parking lot of Lincoln Elementary during her lunch break. She won't invite him inside a biker in a school, raises questions, but she'll talk. Her hands shake when she lights a cigarette. "I've filed 4 reports since September," Mrs. Chen says, smoke trailing from her nostrils. 4 documented incidents of suspected abuse. Bruising patterns consistent with adult grip marks. Behavioral changes, withdrawal, hypervigilance, flinching at sudden movements. CPS investigated twice. Derek's articulate, employed, lives in a nice house. Emma won't talk, won't say anything happened. The system requires evidence or testimony. What about the bruises? He says she has a blood clotting disorder. Brought a doctor's note. I called the doctor. The note's real, but the diagnosis is questionable. Mrs. Chen drops the cigarette and grinds it under her heel. "I teach 2nd grade. I've seen this before. That little girl is being hurt, and I can't do anything about it except file reports that go nowhere." Jake leaves with a file folder of photocopied incident reports Mrs. Chen isn't supposed to share. 7 reports total. 3 from the nurse, 2 from Emma's teacher, 2 from concerned parents who saw bruises during school events. CPS visited the Harris home on September 15th and October 22nd. Case closed both times due to lack of evidence and child's refusal to disclose abuse. Emma's alone with a man who hurts her, and the system that's supposed to protect her has already failed. Twice, Jake's garage smells like motor oil and regret. 11:34 p.m. He sits on an overturned milk crate, surrounded by half-rebuilt engines and tools he's been collecting for 20 years. The photograph is in his hand, creased, faded. Danny Malone, age 9, grinning gap-toothed at the camera. Summer 1987. 3 weeks before the funeral, Danny's wearing a Ghostbusters t-shirt Jake bought him with money stolen from their old man's wallet. The bruises on Danny's arms aren't visible in the photo, but Jake knows they were there, always there. Same pattern as Emma's, same purple-yellow progression, same fingerprint circles around thin wrists. Their father, Thomas Malone, worked construction when he wasn't drinking. When he was drinking, which was most nights, he worked his fists. Danny was small for his age, 72 pounds soaking wet. Easy target. Jake was 15, already 6 feet tall, already learning to fight back. Couldn't protect Danny at night when their old man came home from O'Malley's tavern with rage in his belly and bourbon on his breath. The social worker came once, Miss Patterson, young and earnest, with a clipboard and questions Danny wouldn't answer. Jake told her everything, showed her Danny's bruises, begged her to take them both away. She filed a report. Their father got a warning. 2 weeks later, Danny fell down the stairs. That's what the death certificate said. Blunt force trauma to the head. Accidental death. Jake knew the truth. Knew the stairs didn't have fist-shaped indents. Knew accidents don't leave finger marks on a 9-year-old's throat. He stood at Danny's funeral and made a promise to the closed casket. No more kids. Never again. Jake was 16 when he put their father in the hospital. Fractured skull, broken ribs, punctured lung. Self-defense, the lawyer argued. But the judge saw a violent teenager with a history of fighting. Juvenile detention until 18, then adult prison for violating parole. 7 years total. 7 years of concrete and razor wire and learning that the world sorts people into 2 categories: predators and prey. He decided to be neither. He built the Iron Brotherhood when he got out. Not a gang, a brotherhood. Veterans, mechanics, men who'd seen darkness and decided to stand against it. They ran security for local businesses, organized charity rides for homeless vets, helped single mothers fix their cars for free. They protected. That was the code. That was the promise to Danny. Jake sets the photograph on his workbench, pulls out the file from Mrs. Chen, spreads Emma's incident reports across the concrete floor, like evidence at a crime scene. The bruises in the photographs are identical to Danny's. Same grip marks, same fear in the eyes, same system failing the same way. He's 43 years old, been out of prison for 19 years, built something good from something broken. But Emma Harris is running out of time, and Jake learned at 9 years old that sometimes the system doesn't save you. Sometimes you need someone willing to break rules that don't work. His phone buzzes. Text from Tank, his sergeant-at-arms. "You still up? Need to talk about something?" Jake types back. "Clubhouse. 20 minutes. Wake everybody." The Iron Brotherhood has 4 prospects guys trying to earn their patches. Earning means loyalty, sweat, and proving you'll do what needs doing. Jake puts them on rotation, 12-hour shifts watching the Harris house at 447 Maple Street. White 2-story colonial, manicured lawn, black shutters. Picture-perfect exterior hiding something rotten. Razor, a former Army Ranger, takes the first shift. He parks his pickup 3 houses down. Baseball cap low. Thermos of coffee. Notepad on the dash. Reports back at noon. Derek's BMW never left the driveway. Lights on in the home office from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Multiple computer monitors visible through the window. Day trader, just like the background check said. Works from home. Always home. Emma can't escape him even during business hours. Stitch, a former Marine with a baby face that makes him invisible, takes the afternoon shift. He watches Emma arrive home from school at 3:52 p.m. She walks alone, no friends. Head down. Enters through the side door. Derek meets her there. Even from 3 houses away, Stitch can see the man's mouth moving, finger pointing. Emma's shoulders curl inward. The door slams. At 6:30 p.m., the screaming starts. Stitch calls Jake immediately. His voice shakes. "Boss, it's bad. Real bad. I can hear her from the street." Record everything, Jake says. Every sound, every word you can make out. Don't intervene unless she runs. The recording is 4 minutes and 37 seconds of hell. Derek's voice, roaring about homework, about respect, about ungrateful children. Crashes. Things breaking. Emma's crying, high-pitched, desperate. The sound of a child who knows no one's coming. Then silence. Worse than the screaming. The silence means she's learned to stop fighting. Jake visits 3 neighbors the next morning. Poses as a concerned citizen, clipboard in hand, asking about neighborhood safety. Della Corte at 445 Maple, 73 years old with a yippy Pomeranian, won't make eye contact. "I don't want to get involved," she whispers. "It's none of my business what happens in that house." "You hear the screaming?" We all hear it. Her hands twist together, but Derek's always so polite when we see him. Says the girl has behavioral problems, says she needs discipline. Who am I to judge? I raised 3 boys with a belt when necessary. Kids today are too soft. Jake wants to tell her there's a difference between discipline and terror. Wants to show her the photographs. But he just nods and moves on. Mr. Patterson at 449 Maple is more forthcoming. Retired firefighter, 70 years old, built like a bulldog. I called the cops twice, Patterson says, standing on his porch with arms crossed. September and October. They came out, talked to Derek, left. Nothing changed. I hear that little girl crying at night, hear things breaking. Called CPS too, they said they investigated. That's bureaucrat speak for, we did nothing. Why doesn't anyone push harder? Because Derek's smart. Because he's got money. A clean record, and the right words. Because the girl won't talk. You can't save someone who won't grab the rope. Jake thinks about Danny. About closed caskets and empty promises. You can, when the kid's too scared to reach. The Iron Brotherhood clubhouse sits at the edge of town, where Main Street turns to gravel. Cinder block walls covered in photos of fallen brothers and charity ride banners. American flag in the corner, pool table that's seen better days. 37 men packed into a space meant for 20. Friday night, 8 p.m. Church is in session. Jake stands at the head of the long table, scarred with cigarette burns and beer rings. The prospects have laid out their findings, photographs, recordings, incident reports, neighbor statements. Emma's bruises are projected on the wall from Stitch's laptop. Nobody speaks. Tank sits to Jake's right. 6'4", 270. Neck like a tree trunk. Sergeant at arms. Enforcer. The man who handles problems when diplomacy fails. He's got tears running down his scarred face. My daughter's the same age, Tank says. His voice cracks. Same age. Same brown hair. I look at those pictures and I see Kaylee. Around the table, men shift. Doc, the VP, former Army medic, wipes his eyes. Brick, the road captain, stares at his hands. Demon, the treasurer, a former cop who got kicked off the force for excessive force against a child abuser, nods slowly. We all know what this is, Jake says. System's broken. CPS investigated twice. Sheriff can't move without evidence. Girl won't talk because she's too scared. Meanwhile, Derek Harris goes to sleep every night in his nice house while that little girl bleeds. What are you proposing? Doc asks. I'm proposing we do what we do. We protect. That could mean prison, Wrench says from the back. Former Marine, 3 tours in Afghanistan, knows the cost of action. Could mean we make it worse for her. Could mean we save her life. Demon counters. I've seen this before. Kids like Emma don't survive long term. Either the abuser goes too far one night, or the kid finds a permanent way out when they're older. There's no middle ground here. Jake looks at each man. This isn't a vote I'm taking lightly. We're talking about inserting ourselves into a situation that could blow back on the club, could bring heat we don't need. But I need to know, are we the men we claim to be? Or do we just wear the patches and talk the talk? Tank's hand goes up first, then Doc's, then Brick's. One by one, 37 hands rise, not a single dissent. Unanimous, Jake says. His throat's tight. Now we need a plan that doesn't land us in jail or get Emma hurt worse. We need lawyers, documentation, witnesses who'll talk. We need to do this right. How much time we got? Tank asks. Jake thinks about the silence on Stitch's recording, about Danny's closed casket, about the pattern of escalation he's seen too many times. Not enough. Doc's sister Patricia meets them at the clubhouse Sunday afternoon. She's 52, gray suit, briefcase that costs more than Jake's motorcycle. Family law specialist, 23 years defending the defenseless. She doesn't flinch when 37 bikers stare at her. Doc says she's tougher than half the men in the room. Patricia spreads documents across the table. Legal precedents. Case law. The machinery that's supposed to protect children but mostly protects the system. Here's the reality, Patricia says. Without Emma's testimony or an adult witness to actual abuse, CPS can't remove her. Derek has parental rights as her legal guardian. The bruises are documented, but he's got medical records claiming she has a clotting disorder. That gives him plausible deniability. The recordings, Razor says. The neighbors heard screaming. Circumstantial. Could be discipline. Could be the child having a tantrum. A defense attorney would tear it apart. Patricia's voice is clinical, but her eyes are angry. You need ironclad evidence. Clear documentation of injury with medical assessment. Multiple witnesses willing to testify. Or you need Emma to ask for help. To say the words, "I'm being hurt, and I want it to stop." She's 8 years old, Jake says. She's terrified. I know. The system isn't built for children who can't advocate for themselves. It's built for lawyers and judges and paperwork. Patricia pulls out a folder. Here's what we do. Document everything. Photographs with timestamps. Medical reports if you can get them. Witness statements in writing. Build a case so overwhelming that CPS has no choice but to act. Then we file for emergency custody and get a judge who gives a damn. The club becomes investigators. Razor parks across from the Harris house with a telephoto lens, documenting Emma's comings and goings. Every visible bruise photographed. Tank befriends the mailman, learns Derek gets letters from debt collectors. Financial stress means escalation. Demon pulls Derek's public records 2 DUIs from before he moved to town. Charges dropped. The man's got history he's hidden well. Jake builds a file. 3-ring binder, tab dividers. Everything organized like a prosecutor's case. Incident reports, photographs, audio recordings. Neighbor statements from the 2 willing to sign their names. They're building something that might work. Might save her. Tuesday morning, 7:23 a.m. Emma walks into Rosie's diner. Split lip. Fresh. Still bleeding. She sits in her usual booth and orders nothing. Just sits there with blood on her chin and that dead look in her eyes. Jake calls Patricia. Time just ran out. 3 men. 8-hour shifts. Round-the-clock surveillance of 447 Maple Street. Day 1 and 2 pass quietly. Derek's BMW in the driveway. Lights on and off according to schedule. Emma visible through windows doing homework, eating dinner alone, disappearing upstairs at 8 p.m. Day 3. Stitch watches Cheryl leave for her night shift at 9:47 p.m. Her Ford Focus pulls out of the driveway. 10 minutes later, Derek's silhouette appears in Emma's doorway. Stitch can't see details from the street, but he sees enough. The body language, the way Emma's small shape shrinks against the wall, Derek's arm raised. Stitch records 2 minutes of shadow play before Derek leaves the room. Day 4. Brick takes the night shift. Former Marine, 2 tours in Fallujah, seen things that wake him up screaming. He's prepared for surveillance. Not prepared for this. 11:07 p.m. Every house on Maple Street dark except 447. Bricks parked 4 houses down, phone charging, coffee going cold. He hears the first scream through his rolled-down window. Emma's voice, high-pitched, terrified. Bricks out of the truck before his brain catches up. Stands on the sidewalk. Derek's voice carries through the November cold. Roaring. Words Brick can't make out, but the rage is clear. Universal language of violence. He pulls out his phone. Hits record. The audio captures 4 minutes and 17 seconds. Emma screaming, I'm sorry, over and over. Derek's voice like thunder. You think you can disrespect me? You think you can lie to me? A crash, glass breaking, or furniture splintering. Emma's scream cuts off mid-breath. Silence for 15 seconds. Then sobbing. Wet, gasping sobs of a child who can't breathe right. Maybe from crying. Maybe from broken ribs. Brick's hands shake so hard he nearly drops the phone. 11:42 p.m. He calls Jake. It's bad, Prez. Real bad. He's hurting her right now. Jake's voice comes back steady. Calm. The voice of a man who's made hard decisions before. You still recording? Yeah. Keep recording. I'm 10 minutes out. Get Tank and Doc. Tell them we're moving tonight. Moving how? Brick asks. But Jake's already hung up. Brick watches the house. Upstairs window, Emma's room. Light still on. Shadow of a small body curled on the bed. Not moving. He thinks about his own daughter. About the promise he made when she was born. No child suffers while I can stop it. Jake's Harley rumbles down Maple Street at 11:53 p.m. Tank and Doc pull up 30 seconds later. 3 motorcycles, 3 men. One decision that could send them all back to prison. Jake looks at the house. Looks at Brick. She still alive? Don't know. Then we find out. 12:15 a.m. The house at 447 Maple Street sits dark except for one upstairs window. Jake kills his engine 3 houses down. Tank and Doc do the same. Silence settles like snow. No screaming. No crashes. Just the hum of streetlights and distant traffic on the highway. Jake moves first. Stays in the shadows. 30 years of moving quiet through places he shouldn't be. He crosses the manicured lawn to the side of the house where boxwoods provide cover. Tank and Doc flank him. Through the living room window, Jake sees Derek Harris sprawled on the leather couch. Empty bottle of Jack Daniels on the coffee table. 2 more on the floor. The man's mouth hangs open. One arm draped across his face. Passed out cold. Upstairs, Emma's window glows soft yellow. Jake moves to the oak tree in the side yard. Climbs 3 branches. Gets an angle on her room. Emma's in the corner. Knees pulled to her chest, holding a stuffed rabbit that's lost most of its fur. Her face is swollen. Left eye blackening. The split lip from Tuesday morning has reopened. She's not crying. Not moving. Just staring at nothing with eyes that have seen too much. Jake's about to signal Tank when headlights sweep the driveway. Cheryl's Ford Focus. Home 4 hours early from her shift at the plastics factory. She gets out of the car, slams the door, lights a cigarette on the front porch, stands there smoking for 3 minutes like she's gathering courage to enter her own house. She goes inside. Jake watches her move through the downstairs. She sees Derek on the couch, looks at him for a long moment. Doesn't try to wake him. Doesn't check on him. Just walks to the kitchen and pours herself a glass of wine. She climbs the stairs, passes Emma's door, keeps walking to the master bedroom. Jake counts. Waits. 2 minutes later, Cheryl comes back out. Bathroom. Uses it. Returns to the hallway. Pauses at Emma's door. Her hand rises to the doorknob, hovers there, then drops. She walks past again, goes back to the master bedroom, closes the door. 30 seconds later, the light under Emma's door flickers. The girls turned off her lamp. Darkness upstairs now, except for the glow from the master bedroom. Jake climbs down from the tree. Tank and Doc meet him on the sidewalk. Did you see? Tank starts. Yeah. Jake's voice comes out flat. Dead. She walked past 3 times, didn't check, didn't care. Maybe she didn't know, Doc says, but his tone says he doesn't believe it. She knows. Jake pulls out his phone, pulls up the file Patricia gave them. Emergency custody requires evidence of imminent danger and failure of all guardians to protect. Not just Derek. All guardians. Cheryl's not a victim here. She's an accomplice. The network of violence around Emma Harris isn't one man. It's a system. 2 adults who should protect her. Neighbors who hear screaming and close their windows. A school nurse who files reports that go nowhere. A stepmother who walks past her door 3 times and chooses sleep over checking if the child is breathing. Jake's seen this before. This is how Danny died. Not from one man's fists, but from everyone's silence. Sheriff Tom Briggs has known Jake Malone since 3rd grade. They played Little League together, got drunk together behind the 7-Eleven in 1982. Tom was best man at Jake's wedding before it fell apart. He was also the deputy who arrested Jake the night he put his father in the hospital. Wednesday morning, 9:17 a.m. Jake walks into the sheriff's office with the file. 3-ring binder, thick with evidence. Photographs, audio recordings, witness statements, medical incident reports. Tom takes one look at Jake's face and closes his office door. They sit across from each other. Tom opens the file, goes through it page by page. His jaw tightens with each photograph. When he plays the audio of Emma screaming, he stops it after 30 seconds. Can't listen to more. Jesus Christ, Tom whispers. I know. Tom runs his hand over his face. This is clear abuse, multiple incidents, pattern of escalation. But Jake, my hands are tied. How? Jake leans forward. You've got recordings, photographs, documentation. I've got circumstantial evidence and recordings made without consent from private property. Any lawyer would get this thrown out. Tom taps the file. What I need is Emma to make a formal disclosure, to tell a mandated reporter that she's being abused. Or I need an adult witness willing to file a formal complaint. Mrs. Delacourt heard the screaming. So did Patterson. Patterson called twice. CPS investigated. Case closed for lack of evidence. Mrs. Delacourt won't get involved. I talked to her yesterday. She's scared of Derek, scared of testifying, scared of being wrong. Tom stands and looks out the window. CPS is 3 caseworkers short. They're drowning in cases. They need hard proof before they can pull a kid from a home. Right now, Derek's got medical documentation saying Emma has a clotting disorder. That explains the bruises to a judge. What about Cheryl? She walked past Emma's room 3 times last night and didn't check on her. Did she witness abuse happening? Tom turns back. Or did she just walk past a closed door? You need to understand how this works. The system requires specific thresholds. Emma has to disclose. An adult has to witness. Or Derek has to hurt her badly enough that a hospital is forced to report. Jake's hands ball into fists. So we wait for her to end up in the ER? Or the morgue? No. We keep building the case. We get Patricia to file for emergency custody. We push CPS harder. We run out of time. Tom's quiet for a moment. Then he leans across the desk. Don't do anything stupid, Jake. I know that look. That's the same look you had before you put your old man in the hospital. You go after Derek. You're going back to prison. You interfere with his parental rights without legal grounds. It's kidnapping. I can't protect you. Jake stands, takes the file. Thanks, Tom. Jake. I heard you. Jake heads for the door. Tom's voice follows him. The law will catch up. It always does. Jake walks to his Harley knowing that's a lie. The law caught up 3 weeks after Danny died. Riverside Cemetery sits on the hill overlooking town. Jake hasn't been here in 5 years. Can't explain why today feels different. Maybe because Emma's face keeps overlapping with Danny's. Maybe because he's running out of ways to save her that don't end with him back in a cell. Danny's grave is in the children's section. Small headstone, gray granite, Danny Michael Malone, 1,000. 978 to 1,000. 987. Beloved. Son and brother. Jake kneels in the wet grass. It rained last night. The ground smells like earth and memory. I failed you, Jake says to the stone. Told you I'd protect you and I wasn't there when it mattered. The wind moves through the cemetery oaks. Carries away his words. There's this girl, Emma. Same age you were. Same bruises in the same places. Systems failing her just like it failed you. Jake's throat tightens. I've got recordings, photographs, witnesses who won't testify. Got a sheriff with tied hands and a lawyer who says we need the impossible. She's 8 years old, and she's dying by inches while I build a case that might work in 3 months. He thinks about Danny's funeral. Their mother crying. Their father standing stone-faced, playing the grieving parent. Nobody looking at the real cause of death hidden under the suit jacket. Nobody willing to see. I can't let it happen again. Can't watch another closed casket and tell myself I did everything I could, because I didn't. I didn't save you. Jake's phone rings. Patricia. He almost doesn't answer. Jake, I found something. Patricia's voice is electric with urgency. Legal precedent from 2019. Miller versus State Family Services. If a minor child presents themselves to a safe location and verbally requests protection from a guardian, emergency custody can be granted within 24 hours pending full investigation. Jake stands. Explain that in English. If Emma runs, if she gets somewhere safe, a church, a shelter, a designated adult, and she says out loud that she's being abused and wants help, we can bypass the normal channels. The verbal request constitutes evidence of imminent danger. A judge can issue emergency custody that day. She has to run. She has to run. And she has to ask for help. Those two things together trigger immediate intervention. Jake looks at Danny's grave, at the dates that mark too short a life. How do we get an 8-year-old to run? That's not a legal question, Patricia says. That's on you. Jake walks back to his Harley. Behind him, the cemetery is quiet except for crows calling from the oaks. Danny's been dead 38 years. Emma Harris is still breathing, still has time. Jake just needs to give her a reason to run and a place to run to. Needs her to do what Danny never got the chance to do. Save herself. Sunday morning, Jake's phone erupts at 6:23 a.m. 3 texts in 5 seconds. All from Rosie. Emma's here, behind the diner. Call me now. He's on his Harley before his brain fully processes. Calls Rosie while the engine roars to life. Her voice shakes. She just appeared in the alley. Barefoot. Jake. It's 40 degrees and she's got no shoes. There's blood on her nightgown. I tried to get her inside, but she's terrified. Said she needs the man with the Reaper patch. Said you'd help her. Jake breaks every speed limit. 4 minutes from his place to Rosie's diner. Parks in the alley and sees her. Emma Harris crouched behind the dumpster like a wounded animal. Pink nightgown torn at the shoulder. Blood on the collar fresh, still wet. Her feet are purple-white from cold. No shoes, no jacket. She ran with nothing but fear and desperation. Rosie stands 10 feet back, apron twisted in her hands, tears streaming. Jake approaches slow, hands visible, non-threatening, the way you approach something broken that might shatter completely if you move wrong. Emma, his voice comes out gentle. I'm Jake. You remember me from the diner? She nods, hugs herself against the cold. He can see her shaking from here, not just from temperature, from shock, from whatever happened in the last hour that made her run. Can I come closer? Another nod. Jake kneels 3 feet away. Eye level. Sees the damage up close now. Fresh bruises on her neck. Handprint bruises. Adult-sized. Her left eye swollen nearly shut. Split lip reopened. And something worse, the way she holds her left arm against her body. Protective. Could be fractured. Emma looks at him with eyes too old for 8 years. Her mother's blue eyes, Rosie said once. Maggie's eyes. But Maggie never had this kind of fear in them. Please help me, Emma whispers. Voice raw from screaming or crying or both. He's going to kill me. He said it last night. Said next time I disrespect him, he'll make sure I don't get up. The words Jake's been waiting for. The testimony that changes everything. The ask for help that triggers emergency custody. But all he feels is rage and grief, and the ghost of Danny saying, finally. Finally someone's listening. I've got you, Jake says. You're safe now. I promise. He pulls off his leather vest, wraps it around her shoulders. It swallows her whole. Behind them, Rosie's already calling Patricia. The machinery of rescue, finally, desperately in motion. Doc arrives in 3 minutes. Former Army medic, 49 years old, seen combat wounds and knows how to treat them. He brings his medical kit into Rosie's kitchen. Emma sits on the stainless steel counter while Doc works with gentle hands. 2 cracked ribs. Extensive bruising across her back and shoulders. Cigarette burns on her inner forearms, 3 of them. Circular, deliberate. Doc photographs everything with clinical precision. Chain of evidence. Each injury documented, time-stamped, catalogued. Emma doesn't cry, just stares at the wall and answers questions in a whisper. Patricia bursts through the door at 6:51 a.m. Emergency custody paperwork. Affidavit of imminent danger. Emma's verbal request for protection recorded on Patricia's phone. Everything legal. Everything by the book. Finally. But at 7:01 a.m., Derek's silver BMW screams into the parking lot. He's out of the car before it fully stops. 6:03, 2:40, wearing sweatpants and rage, face purple, veins bulging in his neck. Where is she? His voice carries across Main Street. Jake steps out of the diner. Just him. Leather vest back on. Reaper patch visible. She's safe. That's my daughter. You kidnapped her. She ran. She asked for help. We're giving it to her. Derek moves forward. Jake doesn't move back. Then the sound. Thunder rolling down Main Street. 37 motorcycles. The entire Iron Brotherhood responding to Tank's mass text. They arrive in formation. Park in a semicircle around the diner entrance. 37 men dismount. 37 sets of boots hit pavement in near unison. They don't speak. Don't threaten. Just stand shoulder to shoulder between Derek Harris and the door. A wall of leather and steel and absolute refusal. Tank front and center. 6'4", arms crossed. Doc to his left. Brick to his right. Demon, razor, stitch, wrench. Every prospect. Every patched member. Every brother who voted yes Friday night. Derek tries to bull through. Tank doesn't budge. You're blocking my access to my property. She's not property, Tank says. She's a child. Sheriff Tom's cruiser pulls up, 2 deputies behind him. Tom gets out slow, takes in the scene. The bikers, the diner. Derek screaming about his rights. By now, people are gathering. It's Sunday morning. Church crowd heading to services. They stop. They stare. They see the Iron Brotherhood MC, the outlaws, the troublemakers, the men their mothers warned them about standing guard over a little girl. The entire town watching as something breaks open in the morning light. Derek lunges forward. Tank's hand comes up. Palm out. Stops Derek cold without striking. 4 brothers step in. Brick, demon, razor, wrench. Wall of muscle. Immovable. No fists. No threats. Just presence. Derek's face goes crimson. Spit flies when he screams. You can't keep me from my daughter. I have legal custody. You're interfering with parental rights. I'll have every one of you arrested for kidnapping. She ran, Jake says. Voice steady. She disclosed abuse. Asked for protection. That triggers emergency custody protocol. And she's a liar. She's manipulative. She does this for attention. Derek's finger jabs toward the diner. That's my stepdaughter, my property. The word hangs in the November air. Property. Something shifts in Jake's spine. Old rage, Danny's rage, 38 years of rage compressed into this single moment. His hands ball into fists. One swing. That's all it would take. Send Derek Harris to the hospital like his father. But Tank's watching. Doc's watching. Sheriff Tom's watching. And Emma's watching through the diner window. Jake unclenches his fists, pulls out his phone instead, opens the recordings, walks to Sheriff Tom. Emma screaming while Derek beat her. 4 minutes, 17 seconds. November 1st, 11:07 p.m. He opens the photo file. Bruises documented over 3 weeks. Medical assessment from Doc. 2 cracked ribs. Cigarette burns. He hands Tom the 3-ring binder. Witness statements. Incident reports. CPS investigations that went nowhere. Everything you need. Tom takes the file. Opens it. His face goes gray. Cheryl's Ford Focus turns onto Main Street. She slows when she sees the crowd. The motorcycles. Derek screaming. She parks. Walks toward the scene. Sees Derek's face contorted with rage. Sees the bikers standing guard. Sees Patricia standing by the diner door with legal papers. Something breaks in her. She walks straight to Sheriff Tom. I was afraid too. Her voice cracks. I heard her screaming. Saw the bruises. Did nothing because I was afraid he'd turn on me. I walked past her room and closed my eyes because it was easier. Tears streamed down her face. I'm a coward. I let him hurt her because I was scared. But I'll testify. I'll tell you everything. Just get her away from him. Derek turns on his wife. You stupid. Tank steps between them. Says nothing. Doesn't have to. The crowd's grown to 40 people now. Church clothes and coffee cups. Watching a man's mask slip completely off in the morning light. Sheriff Tom cuffs Derek Harris at 7:34 a.m. Charges read like a nightmare. Aggravated child abuse, assault, battery, child endangerment. Derek's screaming about lawyers and rights and false accusations as Tom puts him in the cruiser. His voice fades as the door slams. Cheryl leaves with a deputy escort. Patricia knows a women's shelter 2 towns over. Cheryl's finally admitting she needs help too. Finally acknowledging she enabled what she was too scared to stop. The emergency custody order comes through at 9:17 a.m. Judge Martinez signs it from home. Emma Harris is officially removed from Derek's custody pending full investigation. Patricia's house becomes the temporary placement. 3 bedrooms, fenced yard, a golden retriever named Max. Safe. The news vans arrive by noon. Channel 7. Channel 11. The local paper. Outlaw bikers rescue abused child, runs on the noon broadcast. Footage of 37 men in leather standing guard. Jake giving a statement. We protect our community. That includes the smallest and most vulnerable. By 2 p.m., the town's shifted. Mrs. Henderson from the Methodist Church brings casseroles to the clubhouse. Mr. Patterson shakes Jake's hand on Main Street. Tears in his eyes. People who crossed the street when they saw the MC's colors now stop to say thank you. The diner becomes command central. Rosie organizes donations. Foster families call asking about Emma. 3 qualified homes within an hour. Social workers scrambling to process everything. Community members fill every booth. Cash donations, gift cards, offers of counseling, tutoring, clothing. Doc sets up a fund at First National Bank. Emma Harris Recovery Fund. It hits $4,000 by 5 p.m. The teddy bears start arriving at Patricia's house around 3 p.m. 1 from the toy store, 2 from neighbors, 5 from the elementary school. By nightfall, 17 stuffed animals line Emma's temporary bedroom. She sits among them, still wearing Jake's too large vest, holding the threadbare rabbit she brought from hell. Patricia makes her hot chocolate, tucks her in, leaves a nightlight burning. 37 men sit in silence. No celebration, no backslapping, just the weight of what they witnessed and what they prevented. Tank breaks the quiet. We should have moved sooner. We moved when she could ask, Jake says. That's what mattered. She asked, and we answered. Outside, the town sleeps different. 1 child safer, 1 monster in a cell, 1 brotherhood proven. 3 months later, February. Jake pulls up to a yellow house on Sycamore Street. White picket fence, swing set in the yard. The Monroes live here, Richard and Sarah, both 51, both still grieving their daughter who died of leukemia 4 years ago. They fostered Emma in December, adopted her in January. Emma opens the door before Jake knocks. She's wearing jeans and a purple sweater. Her hair's brushed, pulled back in a ponytail. The bruises are gone. Her face has filled out 12 pounds gained, the caseworker said. Healthy weight for an 8-year-old. But more than that. She smiles. Uncle Reaper. She hugs his waist. He's Uncle Reaper now. Has been since week 2, when she decided the big scary biker wasn't scary at all. Just safe. She drags him inside to show him her report card. All A's. Math, reading, science, social studies. Gold star stickers from Mrs. Chen, who cried when Emma returned to school. Sarah Monroe makes coffee. Offers Jake cookies Emma helped bake. They talk about piano lessons starting next month, about the therapy sessions twice a week where Emma's learning to process trauma. About nightmares that are finally spacing out 3 weeks since the last one. Richard says Emma talks about her mom now. About Maggie. About missing her but understanding she's not coming back. They've hung photos of Maggie in Emma's room. The past isn't erased, just given context. Room to breathe. Jake leaves at noon. Drives to Riverside Cemetery. Kneels at Danny's grave like he does every Sunday now. I kept the promise, little brother. This one made it. The wind moves through winter bare oaks. Danny's been dead 38 years. Emma Harris gets to turn 9 next month. That's the difference. That's the promise kept. The Iron Brotherhood added a new patch last month. Purple ribbon. Child abuse awareness. 37 men wear it over their hearts. Every Sunday at 3 p.m., they ride. Formation down Main Street, past Lincoln Elementary School. Emma watches from the playground, waves. 37 hands wave back. Protection isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just showing up. Again and again. 37 motorcycles saying, "We see you, we've got you, you're not alone." Sometimes it's staying when everyone else leaves. Sometimes it's being the wall between monsters and children. Sometimes it's one broken man keeping a promise to a ghost by saving a girl with her mother's blue eyes. The engines rumble. Emma smiles. The broken heel when someone finally stands guard long enough for them to feel safe. That's the only promise that matters.